So with the release of episode 13, which starts the second part of season 1 of Spy Family, this episode went off in a really good way. I really enjoyed this episode a lot, not only in the episode itself, but also in the opening, as well as the closing. This entire episode really was well done. Now episode 13 continues on from episode 11 from the first half of the season. And as we expected, this episode was more serious than the previous episodes that we have seen up till now. But fear not, there is still a tremendous amount of humor, including one extremely good meme face that Anya brought out, as well as some very wholesome and really cute scenes, including the one that we saw in the animal center. Yeah, that was really good. I mean, if you saw that, if you didn't have diabetes, you might get that watching this show. And though it's probably unintentional, I really had to laugh when they showed a chihuahua in this episode. Now, if they showed a swole chihuahua, I would have been really laughing my head off. But overall, the humor in this episode was really, really good. But the story is a very interesting one because it continues on the terrorist story that we saw in episode 11, and much of the mystery that came out in episode 11 is revealed in episode 13. We now know what the terrorists are going to do and why they have dogs. And of course, Y's organization finds out about this terrorist group, and that sets off Lloyd into his next mission and splits him from his family. And despite the fact that they both go in their separate ways, there's a lot of interacting between the two, considering the fact that, of course, the dog that Anya eventually wants is the dog that's in the terrorist group. And this sets off this entire ordeal that went on for 5 chapters in the comic series and will go on for another episode. So this episode covered chapters 18 and 19, and probably the next episode will complete it with 20, 21, and 22. And so despite it looking like everything is now okay with Yor saving Anya, we know that the terrorist plan is still ongoing. But overall, the tone of this episode was really well done. It was well balanced between the wholesome nature that we often see in Spy Family, as well as the sinister nature that comes from the spy side of the story. And so the animators did a really good job, and the director really put this together very, very well. The animation looked good, the action looked good, but one thing I have to say, as good as the action was in episode 13, especially the part with Yor coming out, that scene made me realize just how good an artist Tatsuya Endo, the author of this story, is. Because he doesn't have the advantage of music or sound or animation, and yet the image of Yor taking out this terrorist was so well done that in fact I found this image to be almost more impactful than the actual animation itself. And so good job, Tatsuya Endo, in creating a really good source material to which WIT Studios and Cloverworks can work with. Also in episode 13, we got to see a little bit of the background with regards to the dog. We find out that the dog is most likely associated with a project called Project Apple, which is the title of this episode. And it turns out to be a project that was done to try to create extremely gifted animals to be used in covert operations. From what we find out in the episode, the project, I guess, worked somewhat well, but it didn't reach the goals that it was hoping for, and so the project was scrapped, but supposedly the animals were kind of lost when the project was disbanded. And so even Y's organization really doesn't know what happened to the animals, but if there are gifted animals that may be trained to become bomb dogs, Project Apple might be appropriate. And I got a feeling that as the series and the comic series continues, we will dig further into that political dark nature and that may create a more sinister foundation to the story. I do not think the story will separate from the wholesome nature that we already see now, but I do feel that it may get darker as we go along. Now, with regards to the opening, I thought the opening was really good. The first opening, I would have to say, is much more creative than the second one. This opening is much more generic to the anime style. The first one was really good because not only the music was kind of unusual, the art style went with that Art Deco look, and I really liked how they started the first opening. But the second opening does really well in that the music is very good, but the artwork is absolutely gorgeous, and there are some really nice scenes in there, including Anya and Becky walking together, as well as Yor doing a dance with her spikes, which is very beautiful, in fact. And there are many additional scenes. And in fact, there was that one scene that came out that when I looked at it, I immediately went, Fiona! when I saw it. And that immediately told me that chapter 30 from the comic was going to be included in the second part of these episodes. And then, of course, when I went to the closing, I noticed that there was a lot more images of Fiona out there. So the closing was very good as well. I really loved how the animation rotated from one scene to another, and it did it in a really nice way. And it actually made me very hungry watching that closing part. But overall, the opening, the closing, and of course the episode itself was really well done and makes you look forward to episode 14. And when episode 14 comes out, I'll bring out another video and I hope you join me at that time. But this is the episode 13 discussion for Spy Family. When you saw it, what'd you think of it? Any comments that you leave will be greatly appreciated. And until the next episode, happy anime watching. And as always, Jaya, nice day everyone.